Welcome, welcome, welcome into another day and another lesson in A Course in Miracles. For a quick review, yesterday we were on lesson 65, My Only Function is the One God Gave Me. And today we are moving along to lesson 66, My Happiness and My Function are One. But before we get into that, let's take a moment to just tune in so we can receive what this is saying to us, that our happiness and our function are one, opening ourselves up to receive the lesson for today through either closing your eyes or settling your gaze a few inches in front of you. Bringing some beautiful attention and intention inward, and using the breath to help you bring that attention and that intention in. Breathing in. And breathing out. Inviting ourselves to the present moment as we breathe in and let the breath go. Choose whatever feels best for your practice today, whether it's exhaling out of your nose or exhaling out of your mouth. Just keep breathing with attention and intention. What brought you to this video, to this lesson today, trusting that. And seeing if you can stick with it throughout going over the entire lesson and also sticking with our practice for today. Just a couple more breaths here. Beautiful, beautiful. As you're ready, bring your attention back to the space, wiggling your fingers, toes, opening your eyes. As we move into the fact that your happiness and your function are one. You've surely noticed an emphasis throughout our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. This is because you do not really see the connection. It's like, I keep repeating myself because you don't see it. And this is because you do not really see them. This is because you do not really, One moment, please. This is because you do not really see the connection, yet there is more than just a connection between your function and happiness. They are the same. Their forms are different, but their content is completely one. So here's what our ego does. Our ego does a constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. So just you and I, we're just battling our egos all the time. What are we here to do? What's our function? So does it do constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is. It is not a two-way battle. The ego attacks and the Holy Spirit does not respond because the Holy Spirit knows what your function is. The Holy Spirit knows that your function is your happiness. Today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless, completely meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function, We will not engage in senseless arguments about what it is. We will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. We will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is. Our longer practice period today has as its purpose your acceptance of the fact that not only is there a very real connection between the function God gave you and your happiness, but that they are actually identical. God gives you only happiness. Therefore, the function God gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Today's exercises are an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. So we're going to begin the 10 to 15 minute practice period by reviewing these thoughts. God gives me only happiness. So repeating after me to yourself, God gives me only happiness. God has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. Try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. It is only if the first two thoughts are wrong, that God gives you only happiness and that God has given your function to you, that the conclusion, which is therefore your function must be happiness, could be false. Let us then think about the premises for a while as we are practicing. So the first premise is that God gives you only happiness. This could be false, of course, but in order to be false, it's necessary to define God as something that God is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. God cannot give what God does not have, and God cannot have what God is not. So unless God gives you only happiness, God must be evil. And it is this definition of God that you are believing if you do not accept the first premise that God gives you only happiness. So the second premise, that God has given your function to you, is, that God has given you your function. We have seen that there are only two parts of your mind. There's only two parts of any of our minds. It's a good way to get to know ourselves and others, right? One is ruled by the ego and is made up of illusions, and the other is the home of the Holy Spirit where truth abides. There are no other guides but the ego and the Holy Spirit to choose between, and there are no other outcomes possible as a result of your choice but the fear that the ego always engenders and the love that the Holy Spirit always offers to replace it. So how do we know what voice we're listening to? I don't know. Am I feeling fear or am I feeling love? Sometimes it's so complicated because of how simple it is. So thus it must be that your function is established by God through God's voice, the Holy Spirit, or is made by the ego, which you have made to replace the Holy Spirit. Or to replace God, really. The ego becomes a god of itself. So which is true? Unless God gave your function to you, it must be gifts of the ego. Does the ego really have gifts to give? Being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts. So think about this during the longer practice period today. Think also about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind, and the many ways in which you have tried to find salvation, find happiness, find healing under the ego's guidance, under fear's guidance. Did you find it? Were you happy? Did they bring you peace? We need great honesty today. Remember the outcomes fairly and consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the ego ever proposed. Yet the ego is the only alternative to the Holy Spirit's voice. Here's what it's telling us. Clean and clear. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. Try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests. Therefore, your function must be happiness, right? We can share in this conclusion, but in no other. For God Himself shares it with us. Today's idea is another giant stride in the perception of the same as the same and the different as different. On one side stand all illusions, all truth stands on the other. Let us try today to realize that only the truth is true. In the shorter practice periods, which would be most helpful today, if undertaken twice an hour, this form of the application is suggested. My happiness and my function are one because God has given me both. God has given me my function and God has given me my happiness. It will not take more than a minute and probably less to repeat these words slowly and think about them a little while as you say them. So ideally twice an hour. So I did make a little adjustment to my computer settings, but I did not test it out. So I have a feeling that my screen will stay on for the full 15 minutes, but we will just see what wants to happen. And if it doesn't, then maybe we'll just get an extra long practice period like yesterday. Yeah. But I do want to try this again because I notice myself that when I'm like just keeping track of time through here, then I get taken out of the meditation, wondering what the time is, and ain't nobody got time for that. So here are the 10 to 15 minute practice. We're going to do 15 minutes. Stick in it if you can. I am really dedicating myself to this practice this year. I'm so grateful that you're with me. But if you got to tune off, if you got to hop off, you know, do what you got to do. So God gives me only happiness. God has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness, right? And then we're going to consider these premises as we're practicing. We're going to think about them. We're going to think about the fact that we're going to either listen to madness or we're going to hear the truth. We're going to reflect on all of the gifts that we've been promised by the ego, by fear, and to see if any of those ever really worked out, right? That is what our practice period entails for today. And I will get the clock started right now. Finishing up on that. Oops. Okay. Finishing up on that last moment. What a great practice period. Full disclosure, that's why it's so good to like have your book in front of you at the very beginning of the practice. I know I needed to get back and remember, God gives me only happiness. God has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. So I could really review those premises. So I did a little creep look down. And then it was probably like 12 minutes into the practice period today where I was like, okay, is this thing working? So glad that it is working. That way I can just kind of surrender even more to the practice. I hope you are having beautiful experience of going through these lessons. One of these days when I decide to or get to it, I will definitely be sharing a video on just, wow, what has come for me of these 67 days. There's a lot of tangible miracles, reflections, that are showing up, but more so than that, wow, that's just overwhelming sense of gratitude and showing up and just feeling more devoted, more online, more engaged, more present in my life than I have been in years. And so I hope this year of dedication, no matter what part of the journey you're on, whether you're showing up every day or you're working your way up to it, or if you're just dropping in here and there, I hope these lessons find you exactly when you need them. Much love, and I look forward to joining with you tomorrow as we move into lesson 67.